Almost. I was looking forward to say, now they locked the door and you're stuck with me. But people kept coming in, so. Just a quick question. How many of you did hear my short pitch earlier today? Okay, so almost all of you. Grateful, super grateful that you were there, and super grateful that you still want to be with me for about, 45 minutes, and we're going to deep dive into trust, and particularly trust in AI. For you who didn't meet me, my name is Rebecka Ångström. I'm a principal researcher at Ericsson Research. I spent about 2 decades exploring how people engage and interact with digital technology, and I specialized in trust and distrust. And trust in AI is a super important thing. Without trust in AI, no use of AI. So I think we start there, but soon we're going to go down a quite different slingery slope. So, first of all, how many here do trust their AI tools? 1 hand, 2 hands. Oh, come on, a few more. Excellent question. Exactly. Now, you didn't fall in my trap. But we're going to start here. Before we start with defining trust, we're going to start here, because this is normally where people start when we're talking about trust. They think about trust in AI is a single relationship between the user and the AI. And that this is all there is. The user either trust or distrust or have nothing at all towards the AI. But it is a little bit more complicated than this. It rather looks like this. Because what we have when we're talking about trust is that our trust in AI is actually influenced by a lot of different actors. We call them trustees in this mesh of a network. So it could be anything from the developer. Do I trust the developer to really have the skills to take care of my needs, understand my situation, or develop the tools that they say they are going to develop? It could be about the organization implementing AI. So I might be a user, not a developer, but do I trust that the organization that has implemented this really understand our security needs? Is there a risk of data leakage? Then it's other parts of trust as well. The supplier or the organization who are building or supplying the AI, whether or not you trust them. Do they have the same values as me? Do they support other things that I might not support that also influence trusts? And then, of course, there's other user, what your manager says, different domain experts in areas, regulators, vendors, all of these different actors actually impact how we trust a particular AI. But do you notice something on almost all of the arrows? Not all the arrows, sorry. I missaw something. The arrows moves in 2 directions because this trust transfer, as we call it, where you trust something that transfer to one entity, actually goes in both ways. So if I start to trust an AI tool a lot, well, that trust is probably going to transfer to the developer or to the organization or other parts. Any of you recognize this? Do you feel like, yeah, this is actually describing a little bit of how I see trust in AI? Yes, thank you. Okay, so a few. Glad. But it's actually more complicated than this. Because again, all of these different actors, of course, impact each other. And due to their closeness to each other, they can also impact your perception of trust in them. So we talked a little bit earlier on the stage about trust and trustworthiness. So trust is a psychological state, but trustworthiness, whether or not I see all these trustworthy, depends on a lot of different factors. When I talk about humans, we talk whether or not I will trust my fellow colleague is his or her ability to do whatever he or she says that she is going to do. Integrity, if we follow the same moral system, have the same kind of values? Or is also benevolence? Do I believe that this person will have my best at heart? For AI, it's a little bit more complicated because, well, they're machines, they don't feel. But we talk often about reliability, functionality, helpfulness, and in some part we also talk about transparency and explainability. Have any of you are here working with transparency and explainability? A couple of hands. So then you're quite involved in the trust development party. Are you also talking about trust is being sprung from reliability and functionality? Yes, you're nodding. Have you ever talked about the benevolence and the integrity of AI? Oh, that too. We have to talk afterwards, of course. But it's a very complicated mesh of different things. And I wanted to give you a little bit of a practical situation of how this really could look like in real life. So I was doing a case study on a small group of AI developers inside an organization. And their main job was to develop algorithms, machine learning algorithms, for a group of users who were sitting in an operational domain. This was before ChatGPT and the big LLM boom. So we're talking about machine learning algorithms, but the impact is just the same. So they struggled. They couldn't get the users to actually start using their algorithms. That was like, talk to the hand kind of thing. They didn't want to. And I started investigating why were this blockage happening. And I talked to a lot of the users, and basically it was one thing. We don't trust the developers because they don't understand our domain. They don't understand our needs. They don't understand even what the numbers are standing for. Have any of you recognized the same kind of situation? Quite a few nodding. The problem was not only did the users perceive that the data developers didn't understand the domain expertise down here, but they could not see the data expertise that the team actually had. They couldn't understand. They saw a data scientist. But they couldn't see that, you have data engineers, data architects, like the whole world of handling data. So they didn't connect that as part of their ability. They just saw the lack of ability of understanding their specific needs. Anyhow, so they started blocking the algorithm because distrust transferred from the developers to the algorithms. And after a while, though, the users started to try out the algorithms. One particular case, there was a data scientist building one algorithm, and she was super proud of it. It worked really well. The user said, no, I'm not going to use it. So whenever it predicted whatever it was set out to predict, this data scientist started sending an email to this team saying, hey guys, my model predicted this, whatever happened in your team. And she did this for a year before they were like, okay, come on, bring it on. We see the value in it. But anyhow, they started then slowly adapt and start using these different algorithms. But what happened is, of course, some of them glitched. They had some issues, some fault, mainly because of the data that was kind of messy down here. But what happened in this relationship is that, well, the users started distrusting the algorithms. And then they went, well, I distrust algorithms, and it's your fault. So the distrust transferred back to the developers, and this became a vicious spiral of distrust and ended actually with breaking up the organization and a reorganization. So trust or distrust in AI is never in a vacuum. It's always impacted by other things that is happening around the AI, by other trustees that will transfer, you will transfer your trust or distrust towards these other items. So, coming back then to what is trust. This is one of my two more academic slides. So this is a definition. Trust is a psychological state comprising the intention to accept vulnerability based upon positive expectations of the intentions or behavior of another. So this is critical. There is always a risk if we're talking about trust. Trust doesn't happen if there is not a risk for something. Because if there's no risk, there's no need for me to trust. But I need to put myself in a vulnerable position, expecting someone else or something else to do something that I cannot control. So I need to be vulnerable in this position. What I wanted to explore a little bit today, you remember my first talk about the optimization stuff happening, where people expected that they are going to use AI to simulate their career path, their marriages, optimize child upbringing, and optimize our colleagues' work by rooting out laziness. I'm laughing because I think it's just mad. But you remember that. This is part of a bigger problem that we call over-reliance. And what happens is actually when you start trusting so much someone or something that you stop recognizing the risk or your own vulnerability. You just spam that accept button. It's really hard to notice when it happens. It doesn't happen from one day to another. It comes fleeting. Okay, so what impact then will over-reliance have on us? And now I have a question for you. I was checking my notes. Now I have a question. How many in here then feel more productive when they use AI? Do you always double check the results of the AI? Yeah. I will say it was as many hands as it is. But the thing is, when we start having over-reliance on AI, it actually don't only impact how we perceive the AI, it actually also changes how we perceive ourselves. There is a huge risk of being overconfident. And there is a really nice research example of this, where researchers tested Boston Consulting Group consultants, BCG consultants. And they divided the consultants in 3 teams, and they asked them to do like a task they normally would do. But one team did not have any support of AI. One team got support of AI. It was GPT-4 at this time. And then one team got support of AI, but also a little education in prompting, which is really important. What happened is that the example or the task that they were supposed to do was outside of what the AI actually could do. The BCG consultants didn't know that. And of course, the team that didn't have AI actually performed the best. Because they noticed they had to go through the whole activity, the whole task, so they knew what was supposed to happen and they sorted it out. The 2 teams having AI did not go as well for. Do you think which team did the worst? Or group? Sorry? The one without prompt? No. The group that had a little bit of training in prompting did the worst. Because, and this is, there was no follow-up analysis on this or in-depth experiment in this, but the guessing was that, this is really about creating confidence, and I'm now very confident that I can handle this tool because I've done the prompting course. So of course, I'm really good at it. Do any of you know someone that is probably a little bit over-reliant in themselves when they're working with AI? Yeah, okay, so it feels like many of us do know. But there is also the other risk, and we mentioned this also, Caroline mentioned it on the stage, of cognitive surrender and mental obesity. So yeah, she brought up, and it's a really nice study, it's an experiment, she mentioned, that tested this, that we have a tendency to, when it's too hard to really, I don't have the energy to go really through the question or trying to understand it. But also my intuition is a little bit wonky. I don't really know if it is. You know, this type 1, type 2 type of thinking. And the researchers added a 3rd layer on this one, and they call it cognitive surrender, is where I like, oh, just do it. Like the AI, I will take whatever the AI says. And this is also something that we noticed already in a study that we did in 2015. So we believe that, if we're going to use AI, there might actually be a risk that just as we might take the car to the store, the grocery store, or that we take the escalator or the elevator instead of the stairs. So we don't get our physical body enough workout. So now we go to the gym. Maybe there is something similar would happen if we also get the similar kind of support for cognitive work. So we tested this, and I mentioned this also earlier today. We tested this with early adopters and asked them, what do you think about this? Global study, major cities, only people who have already started using AI. Or in that time of 2015, it was more of these AI assistants or smart assistants. And about a third believe that we will lose our cognitive critical thinking. And a lot more really believe that we were going to go to these gyms to work out. How many here are looking forward to go to Sudoku or math gyms? I see a few hands. Well, it could be quite nice, I think. Glass of wine, Sudoku, cup of tea, maybe. But anyhow, so what happens here is that if we look at ourselves, we can become overconfident in ourselves and we let go of maybe the kind of judgment and agency. But then looking then what happens to us when we don't have that AI. And here's quite interesting, because then we're not so sure of ourselves, and we're starting getting used to having AI around. It actually leads to us being at the risk of questioning our own judgment and our ability to make decisions. There's one of my favorite research paper on this. It's actually coming from the Netherlands. The police office, the police organization was implementing predictive policing. Do you know what predictive policing is? Okay, so it's basically using algorithmic tools in order to predict where the next crime is going to happen. So you feed in a lot of data on previous crimes, historical data, but it could be the weather, it could be if there is a sports event close, if it's a Friday or if it's a Monday, all of these kind of different type of data. And the algorithm or the predictive policing tool predicts where the next crime is going to happen. So they started implementing this in the Netherlands, and there were specific officers. Usually they worked with administration, so they were, I don't think they were trained police officers, but they were part of the police organization. They got the assignment to sit and interpret the results of the algorithms. And then they presented it to the police officers. And what was super interesting in the beginning, when the people, the intelligent officers, they were called, when they didn't, package it well, the police officer went like, I'm not so interested. But then they started packaging it and really make it clear to the police, okay, this is where the next crime is going to happen, and they added some information, actually making the material quite subjective. So they picked out the cherry picking. There was one example, they go like, well, there is always this area that is highlighted as potential for crime. So the police will get tired of this. So I'm going to skip it for this time and then instead highlight this area. So we get people alert. But the problem with this was, well, of course, that's a problem too. But one of the major problems with this is that the police officers in the organization actually started to see that the result coming from this predictive policing tool was better than their own judgment, like more objective. It had better view, and they started to see themselves as subjective, less trustworthy. So they didn't want to make their own decisions, and they started feeling when they started fulfilling the recommendations from the AI, touring, or not touring, what do you call it? When you walking around in the area, sorry, you completely lost the word. Walking around in the area where it was highly predicted to be a crime occurring, they felt like, I'm doing something really good now because I'm following the AI advice. But their view on their own judgment, that was still really diminishing. So and this is not a small thing. This is actually a major thing that is happening, because then that means that we are even more at risk of following AI advice. And I don't know if you've seen this, one of the latest studies that also was published in Nature about how people might actually change what they're voting for if they converse with AI. So these researchers went out and tested having conversational AIs with a group of voters. They first tested it in the US, then in Canada and in Poland. And they found that people are quite open to actually change what they're thinking about voting for just after having a conversation with AI. I think that this is super troubling. And what they found is also that the AI that produced the most fact was the one that people had the most tendency to change after talking. It didn't matter if the facts were right or wrong, it could be false. But people like, oh my God, there's so much facts. I have to shift what I'm voting for. It's super problematic. So over-reliance, and again, we're not talking about trust now, we're talking about over-reliance in AI, has the tendency to change the way we see ourselves when we're working with AI, but also how we see ourselves when we don't have AI, and making us more open to being influenced by AI. But you remember the big mesh I showed you. So I want to give you a little bit, okay, so what does this mean then with other people who are working with AI? And I have a fun example. I tested it with my colleague and she laughed. So I hope that you will laugh too. But we did an experiment on idea evaluation. We wanted to test if there was bias in idea evaluation. Heads up, there's not. It's super interesting paper, but it wasn't about AI. But in the exit survey, when people are finished doing the experiment, you usually put a lot of questions to them and ask them about the experiment, right? So I forced in some questions about AI, and I asked, do you think that you would have done a better job if you had had AI part of this activity? People go like, nah, I'm super good. Then my follow-up question was, do you think that your colleagues would have fared better if they had AI? Just, what do you think that people said? Yes. Yeah, so we do tend to believe that people people might improve if they have AI. And going back to these police officers in this police situation, actually the intelligence officers that started out as just being administrative personnel, the view on them actually increased a lot, and they became like this kingpins, like these who could dictate the work of the police force in these particular places, because they started to be perceived as so knowledgeable because they have the AI with them. But then again, how many in here have received AI work slop? Do you know what AI work slop is? Okay, sorry. AI work slop basically is defined as something that looks really polished, really nice wording, like a report that looks really well polished, all the right words, looks very neat and very sleek. But when you start reading it, it's nothing there. It's just very, very high level. It doesn't really come to any formal conclusion that is of value. So it's generated by AI, but it doesn't get you that far. Have any of you in here now, have received this kind of work from colleagues? And you enjoyed it, of course. I told my husband that he's like so angry because he has to sit and redo people's work. Yeah, you see nodding here. And I was like, you have to put a break in this. You have to say, no, this is like you're overstepping. But the thing is that in another study done by the Better Up Labs and Stanford Social Media Labs, they found out that when people receive this kind of AI work slop from others, they see them as less creative, less reliable, less trustworthy, and less intelligent. So we don't really want others to see that we're working with AI. And I have a colleague of mine, he is a performance tester, do you say prestanda tester? Performance tester, yeah. And he gets super angry every time someone sends him this like vibe coded stuff, because that means he gets a lot of extra work. But at the same time, do we change our behavior so people don't see that we work with AI? I'm the only one? Or I see a few hands. So for instance, me, I write a lot. I used to love, the M dash. I was like, yeah. And then ChatGPT, like, oh, I love M dash too. And now I have to sit and correct my text because I use it but per auto. I'm just pushing it in there. And then I have to go like, oh my God, no. I have to take it out because otherwise someone will suspect that I work with. Of course I work with AI. But I'm super afraid, and this is the important part. I'm not worried that someone is going to think, oh, she's working with AI, but I'm super worried that someone will think that I'm over-reliant on AI, that I don't check my material, that I don't stand for the conclusions, that I haven't pulled my weight and done my work in this piece. But that's super hard to put in a extra comment in the end, which means that I just try to filter out or take out whatever makes it look like I've used AI. And in this current situation, until we've solved this, and I'm sure that this is kind of a hiccup or something that like a teething problem, and it will get sorted out. But until we have that situation, we might be damned if we do and damned if you don't. People expect us to use AI, but then again, they don't want to see that we used it, overused it. But I can also see a future where we stand and someone comes and gives me their report, and I go like, "Are you checked it with AI?" It's not good or bad, or it's not good either or, because if the person hasn't checked it with AI, that means that I have to go through it again, of course. But also if they say they're done AI, then I'm going like, how much of this work did you do yourself? So there is problematic, as long as we have this over-reliance on AI, and I cannot say whether or not another person is over-reliant on AI, it impacts my trust in them. Okay, so then we have the domain experts. And yeah, there is always a risk of domain. Domain users are usually, and I think that all of us in the room are in one way or another domain experts. We know our field of area. But in our study, or in quite a few studies, we also know that domain experts are the ones who are the most afraid of AI. Or we're more reluctant to just accept it because we can see when it's wrong. But also, we have the most to lose if AI could replace what we are doing. And in a study we did with across the globe, also with decision makers, we asked them what was the most difficult problem of getting AI implemented in organizations. We asked about technical problems, we talked about organizational problems, and we talked about cultural problems. And the most prevailing problem from those who are starting on this journey of implementing AI as a tool in their organizations to those who have come quite far is actually trust and worry. The people worry that they are going to have, the job security is going to be lost, and that they will lose control. But a major part is the loss of expertise. But with AI, it's super easy to question someone's expertise. If I go to the doctor, I can very quick go to Claude or what have I, and I'm like, is this really true? And I can question any domain expertise. I did a little trial on my own with my manager. We were in a meeting in Teams, and we have Copilot. And I was like, Copilot, what is my manager talking about? Could you give me counter arguments? It worked. Quite nice. Of course, I informed him afterwards, but it was super funny. But this is also, when we have this intelligence at our fingertips, and we have over-reliance in AI. It's super easy to start question people who have proper domain knowledge around us because we have this over-reliance in AI. So it could actually erode trust also in domain experts. So where do we land? Over-reliance, we're not talking about normal trust, we're talking about over-reliance in AI, could create overconfidence when we use AI, lack of confidence when we're not using AI, distrust in others when using and not using AI, and doubt in domain expertise. So how do we handle this? Now comes my second academic slide. I know, they're very colorful and inspiring. Okay, so the thing is with trust and distrust, is that also this is just like we're thinking that trust is just one single relationship between one actor and a trustee. We tend to believe that trust and distrust is on the same continuum. You have trust over here, and then it degrades, and then you end up in distrust. That's not true. Trust and distrust are two separate constructs. It actually activates two different parts of the brain. So practically, you could sense trust and distrust at the same time for the same actor. One simple example of this is the bank. I might trust the bank to take care of my money that's in my salary account. So every time I open it, I'm expecting the numbers to be the same as the last time I checked. But I might not have the same trust, or rather I have some distrust for my bank. It's not giving me the best rent on the mortgages. Interest, thank you. I have my souffleur here, it's very nice. So I can feel both trust and distrust to the same actor at the same time. But we need to unpack distrust a little bit, because distrust has a very negative tone to it. But distrust, if you unpackage it, it's more also about this critical reflection, asking questions, skepticism. This is also part of feeling distrust. It doesn't mean that I'm going to run away from you, just as I can have a little trust for someone, not fully or full-blown over-trusting or over-reliance. I can have a little distrust, just enough to make me question. And the thing with trust and distrust, as they're a separate part, is that too much trust, we know, leads to over-reliance. And we know that too much distrust leads to non-use. So we have to find a sweet spot where we trust AI enough to use it, to make it part, to really harness the value of AI, because we can win so much with using AI. But keep a little seed of distrust, just enough to make people go, I didn't expect that answer. I will ask again, I will prompt again, I will do something, I will check this, I will do something else. Just enough to keep us a little bit on our toes. And so what we call this calibrated distrust, and this was actually going to help us. So if I have a little bit of calibrated distrust, and you need to help me fill this, what a calibrated distrust could be. But if we can have a little of that, that means that I can keep trusting myself, because I capture this and I realize that I'm not the one that's spamming the accept button. But it can also help me keep the trust in my colleagues or friends, because I know that they are now prompted, or they have now a reason for questioning the AI a little bit. And also, again, domain expertise becomes still a very really valid part of this whole ecosystem. So what I would like to ask of you in this room, because I have only provided you with this information, I do not have the solution. But think about what we can do in order to find this balance between trust and distrust. And think about what we can. So maybe it's not only about asking how we can make users trust AI, but also how to ensure they don't trust it too much. Could there be design friction, for instance? Could we design a little bit of frictions into the responses? Could we help users question? Could we inform them? Like my teenage daughter today, they are really good at asking for the source for any type of information. They're like, where did you learn that, Mom? Maybe it's that, maybe it's education. Maybe we can track over-reliance in some way, just like we're tracking other type of metrics. Could we find out who is the accept button spammer? Or could we create space for expertise to be seen and valued in different situations? So I wanted to give you these seeds of thoughts and think about how we can balance trust and distrust in AI into the future. That's all I have for today. Questions? Thank you. Yeah, we have some time for questions.
Do we have any questions? I'm the runner today. Super fast.
Hey, this is Jane, by the way. I was really fascinated by that trust and distrust. It is actually the first time that I know that this are two separate constructs and they can go at the same time. I had a personal experience like, I know that when I use, for example, generative AI, and I can set a personal setting that asks, be critical, please stop being too pleasable. And you know what AI is doing? And it's start looking for all sorts of problems, like its performance, like that I'm some kind of a evaluation or reviewer will review it by, you know how it trained by human evaluation, and that really annoys me. And I'm just thinking about, you know, this is like so hard, and if you set it to please be critical, and it's doing that performance and making really fake artificial criticism and looking for problem, and it's really like every time it will give me the critiques which is unnecessary. That's like when you talk about this, I immediately ask like trust and distrust. This is like where is the sweet spot? Yeah, exactly. That was not necessarily a question. I just hope to bring some personal experience, and it's just so important to talk about such things.
Yeah.
In a way, thank you very much for bringing that out.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. I think that this is really valuable, and I did the same thing. I do hang out with Claude some, and I've told it like, never write anything for me. Just ask questions, help me build. I really need the content I'm creating to be my own. And then all of a sudden it was for this event, and I had to write a bio, and I was like, oh my God, I don't have the time. I just like something like this. Can you do it for me? And it goes, no. We had a deal. I will not write the bio for you. And I was like, but I don't need to own the bio. This is a short snippet about myself. Yeah, so it's not easy. We are not there yet. Yeah. Any other questions?
So convenient.
Yes, perfect. Hello, my name is Moa. I lead the development teams, and they use a lot of AI. And I would like to sort of insert more critical thinking, perhaps, into how we use AI. Do you have like the perfect question that I can use to start talking about this?
Oh no.
or not the perfect
but my brain
question
my brain starts directly to ask if there was a police officer looking at this response. I don't know. No, I don't have a perfect question, and I'm sorry to say that. To this point, I have this, and I would love to hear any of your stories or ideas on how to do this in a proper way, because I think that this is something that we're just about. We are uncovering together this over-reliance issue. We have been over-reliant before on our machines, but the better AI becomes, and the more we start to use it in different type of situations at work and also in our private lives, this is going to grow as a problem. And that's why I wanted to show you with the 3 examples earlier this day with the personal digital twin and the AI caregiver and such. So before AI become that good, I think that this is something that we have to be on top of. So share, please share.
No, I just wanted to add a little bit to that. I'm a researcher as well, and I have to do a lot of academic writing and research. And something that I've started doing as a prompt is that in academia, that if you write in keywords like peer-reviewed research and give me the links, which sort of helps me to go through the sources much quicker than sitting on Google Scholars or the journals and pulling them out. And that way I can quickly check if the sources are reliable or not. I don't know if that was helpful, but that's another way of kind of critically seeing where is the information coming from. Something that I have been using, and it's quite good. And of course, if you get one good, reliable research, then you can pull out a lot more, and it's a little faster than doing it manually. So it was a comment.
Okay, I don't know what this means. Oh,
Question. Good.
the cameraman. Jürgen.
Hi,
Yeah.
I'm Edwina, and I like how you're sort of illustrating how this over-reliance thing is a big issue. And it got me thinking, like, this is something that we have to take upon ourselves, but I was wondering if it's something that could be integrated with the AI itself, or, you know, in governments, you know, in society, something that we can regulate for the future, because it's a big problem, but it can't just be up to the individual.
No, I don't think this should be up to the individual. I think that this should be up to all actors who are active within this space. So it's all of us, tech companies, users and regulators and other societal actors as well. We had a quick conversation after my speech earlier today, and I never got to answer the regulation question. But here's the thing. Regulations kind of is bred from the ethical discourse that we're having out in society. So whatever we are talking about ethical issues, tends to find its way to regulations one way or another. One example of this is facial recognition in AI or in usage. That was debated quite a long time before there was any regulations around it. So this is something that we should discuss and talk about. If we can sort it out ourselves within, you know, the industry and amongst users, yeah, maybe it will not happen to be part of regulations. If we do not, yeah, it might very well become part of at least the discourse on that level. I would guess.
Thank you.
We have 2 more minutes, I think, or? Yeah.
Question here.
Yes. Hello, my name is Linda, and I wanted to share a thought that I had recently with my fellow front-end student. We discussed using AI for our work and how to use it, and well, one of the main points that our teacher had was that AI in technology today should be a skill. It's something we learn as well as we learn other skills, and something that I realized when we were discussing this, that when you learn a skill, you also gain confidence. And I think it's very important that you learn to get confidence in using AI, not just using it more and more, but also perhaps maybe how to use it, when to use it, and should I just start writing a prompt according to this like template I have, or do I start by writing down my thoughts and then pick from there? So I think it's a very interesting approach to consider the AI skills as also something you gain confidence in, because having confidence also means that you know when to not use something.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that not only how we should use AI as a person, individual, but also how society uses AI should be part of our education. I really wanted my kids to learn that in school. So finding its way to the school system, this type of knowledge, that would be something to fight for. So it's not only about designing the tools, it's really about creating that awareness. And that will create healthy confidence in using AI.
We are at 3 o'clock now.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much, Rebecka.
Yeah. Thank you. Some of the main papers that I mentioned, if you want to read up on it, so of course.